Hey guys, welcome back to the Nobody Cares podcast.
Hi, we're here. We're doing it.
It is us, Adam and Jared. And we're here to talk about things that you don't care about, but we do. So shut up.
I mean, do we really care, though? That's a question. Do we actually care?
Depending
Maybe
on the
a little
subject.
bit. Yeah.
Depending on the subject a little bit.
And the time of day.
And how much alcohol we've had.
Yeah, in the mornings, don't talk to me until I've had some caffeine of some kind.
And Irish coffee.
Yeah. Yeah, Irish coffee. Perfect. Is ADHD considered mental illness?
By all accounts of today, yes.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure I'm undiagnosed, but I think I have it. Like, I'm scatterbrained. I'm all over the place.
I know for a fact I do. I had it when I was a kid. I then was re-diagnosed 3 years ago.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure it's only recent where it's really sort of been taken seriously in the medical field and diagnosed and everything. But I think a lot more people have it than people realize.
Definitely. There's a ton more ADHD cases than most people tend to realize. Mm-hmm. And I can't remember what the full summary is, but it was a case of there was ADHD and ADD. Mm-hmm. If I remember correctly, that's now no longer really the case.
Yeah.
ADD and ADHD are now basically the same bracket. There's just different symptoms of such.
Yeah.
I actually think technically, according to my paperwork, because I actually read over it recently, I think technically what I actually have is ADD. Mm-hmm. There's just the addition of some of the hyperactivity to mine, because I also apparently the neurologist I went to actually wanted to get me checked for autism as well.
So real quick, this is going to sound like maybe a stupid question, but I actually am unsure. What is the difference between ADD and ADHD?
There's different signs and different brackets with ADHD, just like there is different spectrums of autism. ADD and ADHD are basically just one and the same.
Okay. Did not know that.
So, like, the thing with the ADD and ADHD was, like, back in, like, the 90s and whatnot, back when ADHD and ADD were starting to just kind of actually be a thing of, maybe there's actually something to this thing instead of just kids are hyper.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times, because I was diagnosed as a kid, and a lot of the time kids would be diagnosed with ADHD and whatnot, sometimes actually unrightfully as just hyper kids.
Yeah.
And so kids would take their parents to the doctors saying, I think my kid has ADHD, and the doctor would be like, oh, well, okay, here's some Adderall. Mm-hmm. And they would give their kids, like, Adderall or Ritalin and different stuff like that.
I've heard of Ritalin.
And just knock their kids the fuck out.
Yeah. I have an aunt, and I remember when I was a kid when she got her nurse's license, or she completed nurse's school. I'm not really sure how that works, but she became a nurse when I was a kid. And just recently, at Thanksgiving dinner, one of the people in my family were telling her, because she was saying how tired she was. This person in my family, she was saying how tired she was. She had to go home and do some stuff. And my aunt, who's a nurse, said, well, when you get home, you should take caffeine. And she goes, no, I have ADHD. And so if I take caffeine, it has the opposite effect. You know, I get tired and sleepy. And my aunt, who's been a nurse for all these years, just looked at her in surprise, and she goes, what? I didn't know that. And I kind of wanted to facepalm, but also I'm not sure if that's her fault either, just because I think ADHD is sort of a recent thing.
Honestly, I can't really say it is, because that's just a thing. Like, it hasn't been till the last few years that there's been actual research done into, like, ADHD and stuff like that, actual mental disorders and whatnot. Because up until the last few years, mental disorders have just been seen as just excuse.
Rub some football grass on it and get back on the field.
The only real mental disorders that people ever took seriously was, like, and even then it was
suicidal thoughts.
Still only slightly. Yeah, like suicidal thoughts, dementia, Alzheimer's, and stuff like that. Those were the mental disorders that a lot more people took to a more serious degree, or schizophrenia also.
Yeah.
PTSD. Those were ones that more people took seriously than like autism or ADHD or
and God forbid if you're a man and you have a mental disorder and you're seeking help, you're a man, pull your pants up and be a man about it.
Yeah,
quit crying like a baby and get out there and do your job.
Masculine stigma that if you were a guy seeking therapy, you were just this wimpy kid who didn't know how to handle his feelings and shit.
Gee, I wonder why men have such a huge suicide rate. Also, hold my beer and watch this. That may be part of it too. Hold my beer and watch this.
That's not so much a mental disorder as much as it's just redneck white guys.
Hey,
hold my beer and watch this.
You remember watching that movie Jackass? I bet you $5 I can do that.
How are you gonna paint the side of our house? It's super tall. We have a 2 or 3 story house. How are you going to get up there? Don't worry, honey. I got this.
Honey, bring over the trampoline.
Trampoline with 2 ladders stacked on top of it. And then, some random on top of the second ladder and that he's on top of. On his tippy toes.
I swear I've seen a video like that.
Oh, yeah.
But, yeah, stuff like that, like the mental disorders and depression and stuff like that, it hasn't, up until the last maybe 10 years.
Yeah.
10 years or so.
Somewhere in that range, yeah.
Have really been looked at and taken seriously. And I will fully admit, I myself didn't take it I took it, I didn't dismiss it. Mm-hmm. But I never really looked into it as much as I should have and could have. Because I've lost, I have lost, a couple of friends and other family members to suicide and whatnot. And it damages the entire family, not just the one person, not just a single relative. It damages the whole family.
It's responsible for a lot of deaths all over the world. Suicide is, for sure.
And I mean, it's... a lot of people get angry about it, but I mean, it's a thing of you don't know what's going through that person's head. You might be angry, and you can, I mean, by all means, you can be angry. Because it was just a sudden thing. Because, I mean, and I hate bringing his name into this because he's an idol of mine, Robin Williams.
Oh, yeah, great actor. A great man.
He was an amazing person. Yeah. A great comedian, funny.
Everyone was so surprised when that happened.
Yes.
It was such a huge shocker.
When it was announced that Robin had committed suicide. And that
my gosh.
Well, when he was announced dead.
Yeah.
Because that was around the time when the Facebook fake death things were still going on.
Right, yeah. There was a lot of those.
And I was working at Walmart at the time, and I legitimately thought, oh, this is just another Facebook hoax. And then I went home, and I watched, and I just happened to kind of flip by the news, and I saw that, no, it was an actual thing. I'm like, oh, no. Mm-hmm. No, not Robin, no.
And
I was heartbroken because Robin was a huge influence for me.
A lot of times it's the happiest and most giving people that have the hardest mental time, and that's hard to understand, but it's true. I don't know about you, I have pretty severe depression a lot of times, and I can be very outgoing, and I deflect a lot with humor, me personally. Mm-hmm. And humor is a huge coping mechanism I have. Oh, yeah. Let's just be funny and forget all the sad stuff going on. But for me, when it hits, I have sessions of it, and so if I'm in a state of depression, it's very severe. It almost cripples me. I feel numb and I just don't want to do anything.
But I mean, that is a scary thing. More comedians, specifically comedians, suffer from depression, addiction, and stuff like that than a lot of people think.
Right.
They see comedians and they see these funny, hilarious, cool guy, men and women.
Yes.
But after the show, you don't know what they're thinking about. You don't know how their life is affecting them, and they could be going through absolute hell in the background.
Yes. And we just don't know. Because they're not going to tell people, because they want other people to be happy. They want to please other people through their work. And so they don't want to put their burdens on other people. A lot of times that's how I feel. I don't want to put my burdens on anybody else.
Yeah, and that's me. Yeah. Like a lot of times I do suffer with depression. It was part of the diagnosis when I went to my neurologist. But with me, I usually try to repress it a lot. Like my mentality basically told me I'm making a bigger deal out of it than I should.
That was you telling yourself.
Yeah, it was me telling me that the issues that I'm making a big deal aren't a big deal. Keep them to yourself.
A lot of people do that. Not just with mental issues, but with physical stuff. Like, there's a lot of signs of like cancer and colon cancer. I know one of my favorite YouTubers was Total Biscuit, and he admitted this a lot. He died of cancer several years ago.
I remember that name from somewhere.
Oh man, I loved watching his videos. He did great views. He had this series called WTF Is, but he admitted in a lot of his videos toward the end and everything that he saw signs of his cancer, because he got, I believe it was colon cancer. He saw signs of it, but he ignored it for the longest time just because he kept telling himself, this will be fine. I just need to eat better. I need to lose a little bit of weight and I'll be fine. And so it's, not just mental issues, but a lot of people do that with physical ailments too, and it's a shame.
I mean, another person who it hurt when he passed away from suicide as well was Chester Bennington.
Yeah.
The lead singer for Linkin Park. And what was really sad about that was his friend, who was the guy who was a lead singer. I think he was a lead singer of Soundgarden, Chris Cornell.
Yeah.
Chester's depression and everything was just escalated when Chris had committed his suicide. Because they were best friends, from my understanding. And so when he passed, it just drove Chester further down that road.
Yeah.
And it was like, I hated it. And when you go back and listen to some of the older and even newer Linkin Park songs, you hear it. You hear that pain and anguish and catharticism with all the music that Chester would sing.
It's not the same anymore.
Yeah, and recently they actually came out with a couple of new songs, and they were, I think from my understanding, they were lost tracks that Chester had made.
Oh, that never got released.
Yeah, that never got released.
Wow, okay.
If you ever go to listen to their new song, Lost, if you listen closely to it, it's a tearjerker. Like, it hits deeply in a emotional level. And that's the one thing that I loved about Chester.
Yeah.
Was that he was an artist and a singer who had that ability to make you feel whatever emotions it was he was putting into a song.
Right. So, I know another very common mental illness that comes up a lot, but it's also ignored a lot, is anxiety.
Oh, God.
And so I'm lucky that, from what I can tell so far, I don't really have anxiety as far as I can tell, and I'm very lucky for that. I know a lot of people deal with it. The best description I've ever heard for anxiety is if you're playing Sonic the Hedgehog 2 and you're underwater trying to get out, and then the music for the time running out starts playing, and it gets louder and louder and louder, and you're underwater and you're drowning. Like, I've heard that's pretty much one of the best descriptions for having anxiety.
Oddly enough, kind of, yes.
So you deal with it?
Yes, I deal with anxiety. My anxiety comes in like different strokes. Sometimes I deal with the anxiety of just overwhelmment, and to the point of like I need a quiet place, and I need to go not do jack shit for a minute. I need to try to remember that I can exist in this world.
Yeah.
And that sounds dark, but that's just a thing. Like, legit anxiety is a dark thing.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Like, 100%. It shuts you down. Like,
oh, yeah.
I'm lucky in the sense of I have only ever been a part of a legit anxiety attack.
Panic attack, yeah.
Like a panicking anxiety attack. I've only been a part of, that's only ever happened to me maybe 3 times in my life that I recall.
Yeah. Some people with anxiety don't have panic attacks. I know a lot of people do, some more frequently than others, but I know it's a very scary thing to experience. I'm thankful that I don't deal with it, but
yeah, and
I consider myself very empathic, and so I can almost, like, if I see someone doing it, which I have before, I know several people who I've witnessed have panic attacks. It's just, you want to help them, but you can't. And it's a lot of times if you do try to help someone who has a panic attack, it amplifies it, and so you're actually not helping, which sucks.
Yeah, and like
for anybody listening, a good hack to help with panic attacks is if you have access to a freezer and you're alone, or if you're with somebody who is having an anxiety attack, you can get an ice cube and suck on that ice cube, and the change in temperature and sensation can help. It won't always, but it does sometimes.
Yeah. And I know for a lot of people, it's triggered by very specific or certain things. So one of the best scenes in television I've seen that really portrays, I think, panic attacks accurately, if anybody has seen the show Breaking Bad, there's a character named Hank in the show. He's a cop. He's Walt's brother-in-law. This isn't going to really spoil anything in the show, but it's established pretty early on that Hank has anxiety. But Hank is one of these like tough male macho cop stereotypes. And so Hank hides his anxiety from his family, from his fellow cops, from pretty much everybody, because this is never said. He never comes out and says this, but it's nuanced. And this is one reason why I love the show Breaking Bad, by the way. It has fantastic writing, and I like shows that have really good writing. But you can tell that he's hiding this from everyone because he does not want to appear weak. And he sees the anxiety as a weakness, and like you were saying, he just sort of pushes it aside and he ignores it. But there's a scene where a lot of this builds up, and he gets news that the cops are sending him to, I think, if I remember, I think it's Albuquerque, New Mexico, which is like infamous for drug cartels and like the heavy hitting drug dealers. He works for the DEA, by the way, in the show. And so he gets this news, and everybody that he works with is like cheering, like, yeah, this is a promotion. Good job. You're doing it. But he, I believe he's very familiar with Albuquerque. I think he had been there before. And so he's sort of acting like, yeah, I'm happy I get to this too. This is a promotion. This is what we wanted. And as soon as he leaves the room, he gets into the elevator to go downstairs, and he has a full-blown panic attack because he knows what that means, is his life is going to be put in danger now. And so he has a full-blown panic attack in the elevator by himself. But when the elevator gets to the bottom and the doors open, he's completely back to normal. He walks outside. His wife's waiting for him. He's got a big smile on. And I just thought that was such a good scene because it does accurately portray.
One of the things that really irritates me on people who talk about depression, and I keep backtracking to this, but it's one of the most prolific things that I can have to my memory. When Robin had passed, there was a dude I worked with at Walmart, and like I was talking about Mr. Williams' passing.
Yeah.
And and they were like, well, what did he die from? It's like, he committed suicide.
Mm-hmm.
Why? He had depression. Well, what did he have to be depressed about? He had all kinds of money. It's like,
I hate that. People who say that you're so rich, you shouldn't have depression. What do you have to be sad about? You're rich and famous. No, that's wrong. A lot of the more rich and famous people, they have more pressure put on them. And so, the mental toll can be, exponentially higher than,
I mean, that's just the thing. And,
for regular Joe Schmo.
Even with that, depression isn't a sense of sadness, happiness, or anything like that. Depression isn't so much it's not an emotion.
Right.
You can't feel depressed.
And you can't throw a bunch of money to fix the problem. You can get therapy, you can do things to mitigate it. You can buy whatever the hell drugs you want, etc. But you can't buy your mental, you can't buy anything that's just going to fix your mental health. Your mental health is what it is, One other fun thing I deal with sometime is dyslexia. Oh, I'm sorry, I mean dyslexia. That's definitely a fun one, and I know a lot of people deal with that too. Oh, what's really fun is at work, because I do a lot of math and work on paper, and so if I print something out where my dyslexia kicks in. And then I send this proposal to somebody, and then I get it back from the stranger I don't know, and they're like, did you mean to say this? And I'm like, oh, nope, sure did not. Let me get that back. Let me fix that.
I also work a job that requires like a lot of numbers and a lot of memorizing and stuff like that. Like, I got to remember how short to cut a piece of material, or I got to remember how long this splice has to be.
Yep.
But, like, until I had it memorized, I forgot the numbers so wearily often.
Oh, yeah.
And even to this day, like, I have worked on all the projects that I work on at my job so much, but each project also, the core direction of the material has to go a certain way. To this day, I still will not be able to tell you what the first ply of that project that I have to work on goes. I will not be able to tell you if it goes left, right, straight, up, down, side. I won't be able to tell you. I have to constantly look at my paperwork.
And look it up.
I have to look at the paperwork, look at the thing, look at the paperwork.
Oh, yeah, I do the same thing. I have to do the same thing, for sure. I have a friend, Tori, who is she is a substance abuse counselor, but she has, I believe, a master's in psychology. I would love to have her here to talk about this, because she would be able to confirm or deny a lot of this, and would probably be able to add a lot of insight.
Yeah. That's, oddly enough, that is something I've actually wanted to go to college for.
Yeah.
Like, I actually wanted to go, if I ever had a chance to, like, not even, like, major in it, but just take a course in psychology, just because that's one of those things that I always found fascinating, was psychology.
She does really good at her job. She even had the luxury of sort of changing jobs around several times based on, like, if she's not happy with a job, she's moved on to others, and I think now she's doing, like, outpatient work. So, I mean, she does a good job.
There was, for the longest time, I literally thought it was just I couldn't hear, because I mean, my hearing's not great, but I say my hearing's not great, but it wasn't until I started actually looking into ADHD and like all the actual symptoms and
selective hearing. Could that be it?
It's kind of selective. It's kind of selective hearing, but it's also just a thing of words just pass through me.
Yeah. It's a processing issue.
Yes.
You hear the words, but your brain is a lot slower to process
can't process it. That happens to me a lot, for sure. I get that.
And that's like a big thing for me. Like, I will be sitting in front of someone and listening to them talk. I will be watching them. I will be listening. And they'll get through talking, and I have to blink.
Say that again.
I'm sorry. What did you just say? Were you not listening to me, Adam? I was. Believe me, please. I was listening. I just didn't understand anything you said.
By the way, something to your credit. I don't know if you knew this. One of my favorite YouTubers to watch, his name is, I think, Spidey, and he does body language analysis videos on YouTube. If you guys don't know Spidey and his body language videos. You should definitely look him up. But he has said many times in his videos, I love watching his stuff because I learn a lot from them. But one body language thing is if somebody's blinking a lot, it can mean several things, but one of the things could be they're processing information. Like, so if you see somebody like blinking a lot, they're trying to process what they just heard or learned or something. So to your credit, that is a real thing.
Oddly enough, I feel called out about that because that does happen a lot.
Yeah.
Like, when I'm trying to process what someone says legitimately, I am not joking. I will sit there like...
Yeah, and if you pay attention to someone's blink rate, it can say a lot. So, like, and that's one of the main possibilities, is if that means someone's trying to process whether either they just heard or they just read or they just realized, etc. I think there was a movie a while back. It's been a long time, but I think Johnny Depp played in a movie where he had multiple personality disorder, and he was like a main character. I could be wrong, but I want to say
I don't know.
I saw that a long time ago. That's just a super vague memory that I have.
I don't know about Johnny Depp, but I know that there was the one dude who played that.
It might have been Secret Window. Was that with Johnny Depp and he had multiple personality disorder? Yeah, that was probably it. It's been a long time since I've seen that one. Secret Window. I kind of want to go back and watch it again.
I guess it's a different movie that I'm thinking of.
I'm trying to think of other shows and movies where people have had multiple personality disorder. There's a lot. Like, that's definitely a plot device that people use,
that's
sure.
That's one thing I will say about the multiple personality thing.
Yeah.
I will say that, sadly enough, media has kind of put they've monetized they have put a spin on multiple personalities that isn't really
accurate.
Great.
Yeah.
Nor is it accurate.
Yep.
Another one that doesn't really get a lot of good representation is Tourette's.
Oh, yep.
Yep. Now, I cannot say anything on Tourette's because I don't personally know anyone with Tourette's, but I have seen people who do suffer from Tourette's, and it is the thing of they just can't control themselves and what they do.
I'm not familiar with actual real Tourette's, how it works, but the one character that I'm thinking of is I can't remember his name, but it was there's a movie, Gangs of New York, with the guy from Titanic. Why am I drawing a blank on his name?
Leonardo DiCaprio?
Leonardo DiCaprio, yeah. So Gangs of New York with Leonardo DiCaprio. There's a character in that has real bad Tourette's. And he was just an interesting character, but you kind of just look at him and you're like, ugh, as you're listening to like him going off with Tourette's. And I'm not sure if that's an accurate representation of real Tourette's because I'm not really familiar with that. I don't really know anybody that has it. But you're right. There are a lot of things. Like, people like to use multiple personality disorder and make a villain out of people with that, etc.
Yeah, and that's the sad thing is that one that's recent that I can think of just off the top of my head, Moon Knight.
Moon Knight. I haven't seen that one.
Moon Knight is the Marvel character who he's kind of compared to being if the Batman became the Punisher.
Okay. Is that like the pale, glowy kind of character?
Yeah. Moon Knight is basically a dude who his entire ensemble is a pure white moon motif outfit.
I haven't seen that one yet, but I've sort of seen,
Well, his comic book origins is he is a completely mentally f***ed up person.
Oh, okay.
Like, he has multiple personality disorder.
Okay.
Like, he forced himself to get those personalities to, like, better do his job, quote unquote.
Right.
So, like, he has three or four main personalities that were generally introduced in the beginning. There was the Moon Knight personality. There was the rich playboy personality. There was the main personality, I believe, and then I think there was also the taxi driver personality who he used to gather information.
Okay.
But probably one of the last few things that I will say that a lot of people would know me for in terms of my... I don't really know whether to accustom this to ADHD or just mentality in general. But I refer to it as chameleonism.
Okay.
but there's an actual thing of it that it just seems to hit me a lot more than it does normal people.
Oh, okay.
Because there are people who, like, they'll listen to someone talk in a certain way, and they'll kind of, like, copy it or imitate it to a point.
Oh, wow.
Okay. But it'll just kind of be, like, for a fun thing. Like, oh, like, they'll watch a British TV show. Oh, I'm British. I tight just a tight.
Not far off. It's called the chameleon effect.
Oh, okay.
The chameleon effect describes our human instinct to emphasize and affiliate with other people.
Okay.
Yeah. That just seems, for me, to hit... I don't know if it's a ADHD thing or what, but it just seems to hit me harder than most, because I will sit there and I will watch a movie. Like, and it doesn't matter the movie.
Imitate the character.
I will full on go into whatever character that draws my attention the most. Like, when it came to Ace Ventura movies.
Oh yeah, Jim Carrey.
I played the Ace Ventura part.
Oh yeah.
Like, my mom would show it off to, like, her sister and all of her friends. Like, she would show me off to all of her friends and her sister and whatnot. Like, when I would imitate and, like, act out the Ace Ventura movies, Austin Power movies. Like,
yeah, baby.
Yeah, baby.
Better out than in, I always say.
Like, or it kind of amuses, but also drives some people crazy depending on how they know me, because I can't control it. Like, a lot of people will kind of catch on to it, and they'll kind of do it for the little funsies, but then just go right back to normal.
Yeah.
I don't catch it sometimes. But yeah, that's legitimately a thing that I have to actually fight with myself, because I'll be ordering the food, and, like, I'll just be ordering the food from a Mexican restaurant, and I'll put in the accent in there, and then have to quickly resort back to normal English when I go to order the rest of my stuff.
You latch on to it because you hear it. It's the chameleon effect.
It's something unique. It's something different.
Chameleon appropriation. There we go.
My brain latches on to this differential, and it's like, ooh, can we do that? And, like, it happens with, like, real life. It happens with movies. You should see me after I watch a freaking Pirates of the Caribbean movie. I got a jar of dirt.
I got a jar of dirt.
I got a jar of dirt. I got a jar of dirt. Guess what's inside it?
Good times.
I would love to be able to travel. But my chameleonism is my number one fear of traveling, because I just know I'm going to go travel to some foreign land, and I'm going to be asking...
Oi, bring me an ale, Tavern Wench. Wait.
I would love to go to Ireland.
Sorry, Scotland.
Like, I would love to go to Ireland one day and actually, like, tour around with oh my god. I would love to just be able to tour around Ireland. And, but I just know that if I were to go there, my chameleonism would kick in, and all of a sudden they would just look at me as like, what the fuck did you think you are, right?
Yeah. It's wild to me that alcohol is completely legal at a certain age, but, like, marijuana is not. Oh my God. That is so wild to me. Because, like, I did a bunch of research on weed and marijuana, and, like, I was so surprised because, you know, I've said this before on the podcast, but I was raised by very hardcore Christian. My parents are very hardcore Christian, and I always grew up to think, oh, weed is the devil's lettuce. It's the worst thing ever. But then when I actually did my research on just marijuana and what it was, the list of pros, like, this is what weed does for you, the good things. It was like a mile-long list of, like, all the good things it does for you, and the negative things was, like, a few bullet points. And I was like, wait, what? Really? And the more I looked into it, it just blew my mind.
Yeah. It's one of those things of...
There's such a huge stigma.
Big company corporate.
Yeah, back with the prohibition and everything, I mean, that was a big deal. It was all... if you've ever seen Adam Ruins Everything, I think that's what the show is called. I love watching that. He did one on marijuana where he talks about it. The great video. If
I've seen a couple of those things. I have to be careful about which ones I watch.
Yeah,
because sometimes they're a little.
Yeah, but most of them are
paranoid.
Great. Oh, true. But he's been right way more times than he's been wrong. That's for sure. But yeah, it's just wild to me that we're in 2023 and it's still like weed is not legalized nationwide. But yeah, I mean, alcohol has been not legal nationwide, but mostly. The only thing that stops you from getting alcohol is like state mandates and stuff.
Yeah, pretty much.
But yeah, addiction can apply to so many things. A lot of people have, gaming addictions or, alcohol or weed. You can be addicted to most things, really.
Oh yeah, there's an addiction to pretty much anything. Like hell, there's
food. I mean, like obesity is a form of could be in a form of sex addiction. Obesity could be in a form of food addiction, but a lot of times, and I can speak for myself personally, eating food is a lot of times a coping mechanism, way to cope. It gives people comfort to just eat food. Oh yeah, PTSD is a common one, and PTSD is common in Army and military veterans, but PTSD can be caused by lots of things. Like if you have any sort of trauma, this is one thing I know. Again, I'm not a doctor, neither of us are, but
well, I mean that's the main part of PTSD is trauma, post-traumatic,
exactly.
And so like post-traumatic stress can be derived from about anything that was truly traumatic, from abusive relationships or just attacks that might have happened to you while you were younger, or just anything like that. And I mean, military is much more prominent. Yeah, but it's not the only way that you can get PTSD.
Oh, for sure. And I think, I don't know if it's been reformed yet or not, but I know a lot. We live in the South United States. We live in South Arkansas, and I know a lot of war veterans, military veterans, and every single one of them has had so much trouble with the VA because you have to go through VA to pretty much do anything, to get your benefits, to get therapy, et cetera, and the VA is just horrible from what I've heard. I don't know if that's been reformed. I hope it has in the last several years. I've just heard so many stories, people trying to get their money, people trying to get their benefits, people just trying to get, therapy for their PTSD. Like, I want to know how many military veterans have committed suicide after their service because they couldn't get the help they needed through VA. I would like to know how often that's happened.
More than you would probably want to realize.
Oh God, it's so
because
bad.
I'm actually being honest with that.
How many people has the VA killed? How many deaths are the VA responsible
probably more
for? Than
they care to admit.
Yeah,
because I mean, okay, they're the band Five Finger Death Punch.
Yes.
They have a video.
Fun fact: Five Finger Death Punch. They were not in the military. They're just very patriotic.
Yes.
So, but yeah, go ahead.
They're big supporters of the troops. They have a song called "The Wrong Side of Heaven."
Oh yeah, I'm very familiar with that song. I'm a fan of Five Finger Death Punch.
That video, if you watch the video, it's gut wrenching.
It is, yeah, because it shows a lot of that. It shows a lot of
that, and it shows the percentages. And how many
they have numbers for
they have numbers, legitimate numbers for war vets who get help and those who don't, and those who just get lost in the system.
I wish Five Finger Death Punch, if they haven't already, I wish they would talk more about how shitty the VA is, because a lot of things in life and in the government, etc., if enough pushback happens and if enough backlash and if people are loud enough, there will be reform. Things will happen. People, politicians, will feel pressured, if I want to get votes or do this, then I need to do this to appease the people. So if there's enough, and politicians are super corrupt, mostly. But yeah, if enough people push back against the VA, and I think Five Finger Death Punch would be a prime candidate for this, if they would come out with a song or something that really just shat on the VA because of all the problems the VA has caused military veterans, It would be that would maybe force some reform. I just know there's been a lot of problems.
Oh yeah,
people not being able to get their health insurance, etc., because the VA just will not process and do their job.
I mean, that's just what the fucked up thing about it is.
Yeah.
Like, we say we support the troops and that we honor them and all this whatnot with all these holidays, all these parades and all the whatnot, but it's the moment they get back home, it's like
they have no support other than they have their family or friends. That's it.
And that's if their family even stays around.
Yep.
Because, like, there's so many times where a veteran will come home from the middle of this giant war that we've been a part of, and then their loved ones will just be like, bye. And they won't have nothing. They won't have no money when they get back. Yep. They'll have no support. They'll have no family or friends to go back to. Mm-hmm. And so they're just kind of they're left with no way of reintegrating into society. Because, like, you spent so long out there in this war-torn battlefield.
Oh, yeah.
With the entire mentality of, at any given moment, at any given time...
That's the number one thing they're looking forward to, is coming back home to their family and their friends. And that's the only thing that is keeping them going in these horrible situations. And then they come home and they're met with, like, radio silence or whatever.
Pretty much.
And that... it's like, that sucks.
It's gut-wrenching. This is referring to the way a lot of this is portrayed in the media.
Yeah.
A lot of, like, situations like the military wives or just mental illness in general, the way it's perceived in media a lot of the times is not correct. Or it's over-exaggerated.
Yeah.
Now, again...
A lot of times it's it's undersold.
Or it's undersold, yes.
Yeah.
Now, that being said, there are those movies or shows that do it correctly. Now, I've not seen this movie. I want to see this movie. And this is going to come out of completely left field.
Yeah.
Puss in Boots.
Oh, I've heard it's good,
The new Puss in Boots movie.
I don't know, but I've heard it's
seen
good.
This scene. I've not seen the movie, but I've seen this scene. Puss is having a full-blown, out-of-body panic attack. Like, he is off the deep end, freaking out. And the little Chihuahua character is there with him, and he or she, I'm not actually sure if it's he or she.
We need to watch that movie sometime. I want to see it, too.
Yes.
I've heard it's good.
Yes. And they're just watching Puss, and, like, if I remember correctly, Puss in Boots is basically like this hero. He is this hero to this little dog. And he's just watching his hero, like, freaking out.
Break down and have a panic attack.
Down.
Yeah.
And a lot of people in media will see, like, oh, they're having a panic attack. I need to
snap out of it. Snap
out of it. You're going to be okay.
That is one of the worst things you could do to that person.
Full-blown disclosure. If you do that to someone who is having a panic attack, you're making it worse.
Way worse. That's what kind of what I touched on earlier.
You do not, under any circumstances, just try to wake someone out of an anxiety attack. It will not work. It only does more damage.
It sucks, but pretty much the only thing you can do is just sort of wait it out. It sucks.
And that's what happened.
Yeah.
Like, that's what the little dog was doing. Like, all he did was just kind of lay his head on Puss's lap. He just kind of lay down on his lap and just was there. He didn't say anything. He didn't do any kind of speech or anything. He just laid there. Yep. And he allowed Puss to just see him. Realize that he was there.
No, I'm here for you.
Yeah, a support.
I've heard it's good, and I've heard, like, actually the action and the combat in the game the movie, I've heard it's very, very good. I want to see it too. But another good example, I think, of PTSD, if anybody has ever seen the show Jessica Jones, based on the Marvel comic Jessica Jones. And I'm not familiar with the Marvel comic Jessica Jones, but I have seen the show Jessica Jones. It is so good. The actress who plays Jessica Jones does an amazing job. She was also in Breaking Bad, by the way. But she has severe PTSD, but it shows as she goes through it throughout the show. she's gone to her therapist, and her therapist has taught her a method to ground herself while she starts to have a panic attack triggered by her PTSD, where she goes back to her childhood and she says the name of the street she's on, and then the next street over, and then the next street over, where she has to stop and think about where she was. And that helps ground her. And that is a real, from what I've heard from my friend Tori, she has said that is a real technique that a lot of, therapists will sort of give their patients, if their patient is willing to sort of do that and is able to do that. But throughout the show, Jessica Jones, that happens a lot, where something will happen that will trigger her PTSD and therefore will trigger her like almost a panic attack, and she has to stop and ground herself, and she starts naming off the names of the street she used to live on when she was a kid. And at first, you don't know what she's doing. She's like, wait, why is she saying this street? Like, what's happening? But if you are familiar, with PTSD, and if you're familiar with psychology and therapy, you kind of understand. But throughout the show, and to me this makes sense, as things happen and it progresses, that method stops working, where she starts to try to ground herself, but she's like, the stupid streets, and she'll like get mad and she'll throw something, and then she'll go into a full blown panic attack, because she's so used to just doing the method that it starts to not work. Where now she's dealing with the PTSD, and she can't ground herself because she's just done it over and over again, that it has no effect. And to me, that's a real thing to deal with. And so I think Jessica Jones does a really good job of displaying PTSD.
Well, we've kind of went all over the place with this one.
Yeah, it's been a fun subject, mental illness. Yay. We all have it. We all love it. Yay. Big hugs all around. Everything's great.
But in
sunshine and rainbows.
But on a serious note,
sugar and kittens.
For those of y'all who are listening to this, if you are having troubles, if you are like needing to talk to someone or needing help, there are people out there who can and will help you with it. There are numbers you can call.
The suicide hotline if you need it. Use it. Don't feel like I don't deserve this. Like there is help out there available.
There is plenty of help out there. There are people who are willing to listen to you. Like, even if, okay, this might sound dumb, but even if there's anyone you can talk to, whether it's a friend or just calling the suicide hotline or just calling or talking to anyone, please do. You might not think that there's anyone out there who is willing to put up with you or who even cares what happens, but I can almost guarantee you that there is. There's at least one person who cares.
You will be surprised at what you can overcome. If we can overcome what we've been through, you can overcome what you're going through. No matter how deep you think you are in, no matter how far high up you think you have to swim and you think you can't do it, you can come out of anything. Trust me.
There's a lot of darkness in the world, but there is always a light that shines somewhere. You just have to be able to find it. Whether it's through religion, whether it's through just talking to someone, whatever it's from, if you can find something to talk about, then just go for it. But there's always other options.
Yep.
There's always other options.
We're all just humans trying to exist, and don't sell yourself short.
So we'll go ahead and call this episode here.
Yes.
If you somehow enjoyed this episode, leave a like, a comment.
By the way, we're going to add another topic that's not in, but it's going to be villains. Like, I could talk about good villains for an entire fucking episode. That's going to be another thing we're going to add to the list. Villains.
If y'all feel like adding in subjects or things that you want us to talk about,
yes,
feel free to leave those in the comments of the YouTube, the Spotify, the TikTok, whatever y'all view this on. Leave a comment.
Give us suggestions, and we'll give you content.
Yeah,
that's how this works.
All right. Well, y'all have yourselves a wonderful day. I'm Adam.
Bye. I'm Jared. Bye.
And we will talk to y'all next cast.
Yes, goodbye.
Bye.